short discussion with some folks yesterday, and I'm really happy. I would say it's a pleasure of mine seeing some of these faces after such a long time. But the memories are very fresh, I would say, right? So it's my pleasure to be part of this, and the only thing I can say is that probably I should have had a discussion sooner than what we are having, right? So it's been a very long time, too long a time, I would say. And I just saw on the when I was launching the website, I see a new picture. The department looks very fresh. So it's really nice to see this. It looks beautiful, and it's a trip down the memory lane for me, right? So a bit of a nostalgia creeping up as well, right? Now, you have asked me to talk about certain things, or I would actually prefer to answer questions here. It's my understanding that the audience is primarily students from the electronics and communication department, or a particular year, or across all years, or how is it?
So they are from across all years from ECE, and some are from primarily they're from ECE only.
Okay. All right. So I'll tailor my talk a little bit in that way then. Upfront, a little bit about myself. Obviously, many folks, or rather most of you, do not know me. My name is Ravneet Kotwal. I live in Bangalore. The work I do, I think already Saurav mentioned. Currently the director at Texas Instruments India, and I take care of all the business that Texas Instruments does, in the Indian subcontinent. Personally, I'm 34 years old. I'm from the state of Jammu and Kashmir. I joined NIT Jalandhar, I think at a time when it was just transitioning from REC Jalandhar to NIT Jalandhar. I think it transitioned in the year 2004 itself. And I graduated in 2008. Right out of college, through an off-campus process, actually, I started working with TI. And I spent a couple of months in Bangalore, and then I spent the next year in US. I'll talk about TI a little bit. I have a few slides as well, but TI is a semiconductor company. It's one of the largest semiconductor companies in the world. The major presence is in United States, so that's where I went. Spent some time in Dallas, in Houston, in San Diego. So I was working with different business entities within the organization, and eventually the path that I took was that of business, right? So business management roles. So I came back to India, and after that I've been working at various locations. So I worked in Delhi, I worked in Calcutta, I worked in Ahmedabad, Pune, Hyderabad, obviously in different roles, increasing responsibilities. So by the time I got to Pune, I was handling the West region for TI. And then in 2017, I started handling overall India, the role which I'm currently doing for the last 4 years. That's a bit about my journey. And then I think personally, I like traveling, I like reading, I like playing golf as well. That is pretty much from my side personally. I was told yesterday one particular element to touch upon. One of the faculty members expressed this, so I thought I'll make this a point, and then I'll show you some slides on TI, and then we can go to the question and answers. What the faculty members have shared with me is that somehow the students within the electronics and communication department are not really that interested, or they don't see many opportunities in the core electronics industry or semiconductor industry, if you may, right? So I thought I'll talk maybe 2 or 3 points regarding that, right? See, the electronics industry, by itself is a very, very large industry, right? And within that, the semiconductor industry is one vertical, I would say, right? And I think I don't need to explain it to you guys in detail, but you know that electronics would not be possible without semiconductors, right? If you guys look at any of the the recent management studies or consultancy reports um, talking about the trends which the world is going to see in the years to come, right? You'll see that electronics industry and in particular the semiconductor industry is coming out on top in terms of the growth prospects and possibilities when you look at the the way world is evolving, right? And you can take many examples. Just take an example of for example, automotive industry, right? When I say automotive industry, what comes to mind? Mechanical engineering, companies like in India, companies like Tata, companies like Bajaj, Royal Enfield, Maruti, or globally, companies like Ford, Toyota, General Motors, BMW, Audi, and all these companies, right? I can tell you that the demand for electronics engineers, hardware, as well as embedded engineers, even software engineers for that matter, at these companies is actually going to skyrocket in the years to come. Already, you would have probably seen many of the folks, your seniors probably starting to work at companies like Bajaj, starting to work at companies like Ola Electric, and the Aether Energy for that matter. You are seeing so many ads these days. What is the reason for this, right? The reason is that today the world is moving towards becoming smarter, intelligent, safer, greener, and all of this requires intelligence to be built into almost everything that we touch, right? Be it our vehicles, be it our equipments inside your home, air conditioners, TV, whatever it may be, right? Your lighting, right? You just look around yourself, whatever room you're sitting in, right? And you realize that there are already so many electronic equipments. And further, the ones where you don't feel that there's too much electronics, I can assure you that in the next 5 years, there will be some electronics entering there. It's not just because I am working in the core field. You pick any study, you do your own research. This is the way the world is moving, right? The world is going to become artificially intelligent. It's going to become smarter. And all of this is going to be powered by electronics and semiconductors, right? So I think the field is very, very exciting. The opportunity is immense. The gap that I see today, when I talk to freshers or when we go to some institutes for hiring, I believe that students are not that aware, going through the curriculum and just going through the coursework. I don't think there is as much attention or should I say self-study around what the industry is and where it is moving, right? So my request would be spend some time to understand the industry, right? What are the various components of the industry, and maybe through some question answer, I can elaborate on that as well if you'd like. What are the different parts in the industry? Who does what? Which company does what? And within those companies, what are the various roles, right? I think once you get this understanding, you'll be able to map what your skill sets are and what you would really want to do, right? In the absence of this understanding and this skill matching, what happens is that most people, just work on things which are immediate in front of them, right? And nothing against the IT industry or the software industry, but the amount of jobs currently present there are 10x, 15x, right? So sometimes that comes across easily, but my request would be, do not let the 4 years of your study, you're studying communication systems, you're studying electronics, you're studying networks, all of these things, right? Do not let that go to waste, right? If you're already spent 3, 4 years studying something, might as well build a career in it, especially when this is the sunrise sector in the industry going forward. So with that, I'll take a pause. I do have slides particular to TI. Let me just see if I want to bring that up. Meanwhile, if there's any question from anybody, I can take.
So one question, like most of the students were asking us, uh, so they wanted to know like what skills shall students own in order to ensure a TA visit, during the placement season, because they want to know like what exactly are the skills which the like, or what are the technologies on which industry is really driving through, which will make them fit for for the placement season in semicon industry.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I don't think I'm able to bring up my slides, so I think we can actually go into the question and answer round. What skills specifically? Now, for any semiconductor company, right? Like I said, there are various profiles, right? And the skill set for all profiles are different, and that's where it's important to understand what are the various things you can do inside a semiconductor company. Right now, I'll take an example, of Texas Instruments. You have analog chip design, you have digital chip design, you have validation roles, you have applications roles, you have business roles, right? You have technical sales profiles, you have field application profiles, you have embedded application profiles. So the point I'm trying to make is that there are several roles that exist inside every specific semiconductor company as well, right? So, and various different skills are required for all these roles. For example, if you were to target an applications profile, the skills that we are looking at is, do you understand board level electronics, right? We are not really looking at whether you understand chip level, hardware definition language level, a gate level understanding of the chips. No, the requirement for an applications profile is actually, do you understand board level electronics, which means do you understand how does a data converter interact with an operational amplifier, for instance, right? If you have to put together a communication or a radar circuit, what are the various components would you need, right? So it's entirely different from what we look for in a digital design domain, which is very different from what we look for in analog design domain. And then if you abstract and you look at profiles which are more business centric, something similar to what I'm doing, you need to understand about the end equipments, right? If I ask you, okay, can you describe how, for example, your cell phone works, and the phone that you have in your hand, how does it work broadly? From an electronics engineer standpoint, give me insight into how it works, right? You really need to be able to understand fundamentally how it works. You don't need to go down to the gate level and to the nanoampere levels, but you need to be able to understand and explain that, how does the inputs get taken, how does it communicate with the backhaul network, how does the processing happen, right? Basic stuff, because you are eventually going to be talking to the clients and the electronics industry customers, right? So skill sets depend upon what kind of profile you are looking at. So I would say, initially in the first 2 years, get really solid on your basics. But then as you probably by the end of the second year, you'd realize what are the areas where you feel more comfortable, right? And at that point, you should start developing an expertise as well. You can pick communications, you can pick wireless, you can pick analog, you can pick digital, or you can pick application centric topics, right? So that would always help, but a good basic foundation never goes to waste, is how I would put it. I
Yeah,
hope
so
that
I
answers the question.
yeah, that answered. So, like one more question I was getting, like, sir, one student has asked, like, sir, failures beset our continuity at times. Could possibly share one of your experience to tackle the same that can act as a guiding force for us?
Okay, so this is, typically do not like to talk about philosophy too much, because I believe that, all people are wise enough in one way or the other. And I don't want to claim that what my experiences are the golden standard. But anyway, if you ask me, my belief and my thought process about failures is that if you are two things about failures, right? One, no failure is absolute, right? What my observation has been throughout my life is that if you have put in hard work, if you have put in your efforts, if you have given your best, and you truly believe that you deserve something, and still you don't get something, which will happen. I can give it to you that that will happen a lot, because life is not always fair at any particular moment. But at the same time, what I've also seen is that eventually things get balanced out in the long run. So no good deed goes to waste, no hard work goes to waste. You might experience a failure on an immediate term where you felt that you deserved something and you did not get it. But be rest assured that there will be an opportunity later in life where that will be paid back to you, and you might actually at that point feel that you did not deserve it, but you still might get it, right? So it evens out in the long run. Do not get disheartened. If you have put in work, it will come up somewhere down the line in your life. The only important thing at that point is to ask yourself, what do I learn from this, right? If you have learned from a failure, I would actually not call it failure. In fact, I've seen successes kill more careers than failures, because you succeed at something small, and then you stop learning, and then you don't progress, right? So that would be my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, so I think that was very insightful answer by sir. So, so one more question I was getting, like,
And I'm
there,
okay if somebody from the from the group directly wants to ask as well. Please,
yeah,
guys, feel free. Just turn on your camera so that I can
yeah.
see you as well. I'll be glad to interact directly as well. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so one question which I was getting again and again, like, sir, people are asking, like, from your experience in the industry, what are the probable areas that might hold prospects in the upcoming times presently unforeseen?
Hmm. So, I mean, I can give you an answer, but I am also keen to understand, what is the current thought process of the group, right? So I can, for instance, tell you that if you look at the emerging economies, right, and if you look at India, for example, the areas or the industry sectors like the grid infrastructure, right? This sector is going to see a big increase in activity. Electrification of automobiles is going to see a big activity. 5G telecom infra is going to see major activity. Aerospace and defense, specifically in India, is going to see a major uptick. Building automation is something which is going to see a major uptick. So I just mentioned about 5 or 6 sectors, so to speak, where I believe that there's going to be a lot of progress in the industry. Now, what does it mean for you? And this is where I'm conscious that what I'm saying should translate properly to you guys as well, right? Um, just take an example of aerospace and defense, for example, right? The aerospace and defense industry, I would like you guys to get your, minds wrapped around it, right? What does it mean, right? Who are the major players? Which companies exist in India? What do they do in India? Which profiles are on offer, right? So, for example, Indian Space Research Organization, almost all of you are aware of it. Defense Research, DRDO, you're aware of it. Bharat Electronics, BEL, you're aware of it. But then there are many other new companies which are coming up now, right? We have Agnikul Cosmos, we have Tata getting into it, we have Godrej getting into it, we have L&T getting into it, right? And all of these guys are going to do similar end equipments, right? So, it's about radar systems, it's about electronic warfare, it's about communication systems, it's about navigation systems, it's about, in some cases, even projectiles, missiles, those kind of equipments as well. But if you start developing your understanding about any of these particular subsystems and what goes inside it, and you can actually target, that okay, I want to be in this industry. I'm fascinated with the aerospace and defense industry. You would then be able to match your passion with what you're studying at your college as well, right? So I think this is the approach I would like you guys to follow. Read about the industry, find out sectors which interest you, right? And I know there are certain people who are interested in automobiles, they would look at automotive. Certain people are more interested in aerospace and defense, they can look at aerospace and defense. Certain people are more interested in communications, right? So they can look at telecom infra. And I just picked one sector, which is A&D, but all of these sectors, they are industries in themselves, right? So you should explore it. And I think beyond that, obviously, I spoke about the sectors, but if you also look at technology level, there are certain technology trends which basically encompass all these industries, right? For example, artificial intelligence, right? Machine learning, connectivity, right? So these are the kind of trends which are going to be universal across all industries that I spoke about.
So before that, I would also request someone if they want to interact directly to sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, Bhuvan.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Sir, my name is Bhuvan Sharma. Sir, I'm in ECE third year. So my question to you is, how relevant is GATE score to get in the electronics industry? Like how it is helpful and how like it open new sector to us, new opportunities. Like is it necessary or we should only focus on some like new skill set only?
Okay. See, I would very candidly speaking, Bhuvan, we do not in the industry these days are not looking particularly at many scores. To be honest, I think we look at scores and we look at grade points from sort of a qualifying point of view. And obviously, if somebody has a bad grade point, that acts against them. But otherwise, what we are primarily looking at is the skill set somebody has. I was actually talking yesterday as well that we are no longer even relying on one-off interviews for that matter, right? So we are not relying that much on even interviews, one-on-one interviews or one-two interviews for selecting people. So I think the overall message is it's good if you're applying for GATE and you have a good score on it. It's great. Obviously, it allows you to get into your master's program, and the industry is gradually biasing towards masters a little bit. So in that sense, it's good, but it's not something that you should lose your sleep over too much. As long as you have identified what you like, right, and you are working on it, you are gathering skills, you are adding projects on it, right, real projects where you really understand what you're doing. And if you can find an opportunity to intern with the company for a few months, I think that is the best way to get into the industry right now.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. So anyone else who would like to interact with sir?
Excuse me,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, Garan. Please go ahead.
First of all, good morning, sir. I'm Gaurav Gupta and from third year EC. Sir, I wanted to ask that how we can learn more about the VLSI circuits, like we just how what softwares are actually used in industries, which we can learn.
See, how you can learn, I would not change the way you are learning today at the college. So I'm not sure which softwares you are using today, but I think institutes like NIT typically are well equipped to teach students those softwares. What I would though advise is that in these COVID times, especially, right, a lot of these corporates have also started coming out with more virtual content, right? So if you went to ti.com, in fact, we have a session coming up, I think, in a couple of days. I can share the link with Saurav, and Saurav, you can forward it to everybody else, where the digital design manager Subhash in India, he would be giving a talk specifically on this, right? So in addition to what you're studying in your coursework, Gaurang, my request would be to touch upon the websites of companies like TI, right, and go through the virtual content available there, which can actually tell you, because industry, different companies have different things, right? So while you have a base in the institute, you can actually visit specific companies to understand some of the things that they're doing in more detail. So I would leave it at that. And I will forward you one link which is coming up from TI side, at least in the next couple of days.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, before that, sir, I was getting a very interesting question, from the audience, that someone was asking, like, could you please share some of your amazing college experiences, with us, which helped you reaching this place? Means some amazing or like interesting college experiences which you would like to share with us, because it's all like we have been studying at least two years in an online mode. So, we would also be happy to get incisive insights of how did you spend your college days and building up your skills at that time.
Yeah, I think your experience, for many people on the call, the experience of the institute might be quite different from ours because of the online situation, right? And I was actually curious to hear maybe if you or somebody can actually talk about that, right? How are students feeling these days, sitting at home and taking all the courses? For me, I think a few things I can mention, which I felt in the long run, maybe I did not realize at that time, but eventually I felt that those things were quite important. Number one, at the time when I was in the college, actually, we had a very small group of students. We were only about 300 odd students across all branches, about 330 or so. I don't know what the strength is today, but it'll definitely be larger than this. But what that did was create a very close group of people, right? And further between, within this group of 330 odd people, we had 50% of the people coming from outside, who were not locals, right? So we had people coming in from all parts of the country, and even outside the country, some of my friends were actually from Nepal and Bhutan, right? So in hindsight, I realized that, though that the experience of interacting with people from different cultures, people are coming from different geographies, different languages, different habits, that is something which actually teaches you a lot, right? I mean, you are adjusting your style, interacting with different people from different backgrounds, right? I believe that is something which is sometimes not evident at the time. At the time, actually, there's a lot of animosity as well between different groups. But in the long run, the learning that you take from understanding different cultures and different people is really, really important. And the one point I would really highly recommend to you guys, please never turn down any experience, right? If you get an opportunity to meet with different set of people, travel to a place you have never been before, try something which you have not done before, eat something which you have not eaten before, anything, because these experiences, everything, this adds up to your learning, right? And culturally, especially if you get to experience a different culture, please take that opportunity, especially early in your career, because later, as you become more established, as you grow older, your lives will begin setting in a certain mold, if you may, right? So it will become more and more difficult to experience new things, because you will start establishing your own path in life, right? Be it about location, be it about where you are living, who you are with. So initial years of your life, initial part of your career, take as many opportunities as you get. Travel, experience new roles, experience new profiles, try new things. And that would be my suggestion. The other few things that I remember from college time, personally, I liked practical work a lot. I remember the subjects or the labs which were more real, if you may. For example, engineering drawing, right? So you get, I don't know how it happens today, but your entire exam is basically practical, right? I mean, you need to draw out everything. Manufacturing practices in first year, I remember that because I loved building stuff with my own hands. Even and this is on the hardware side, anything to do with breadboards, putting together small circuits, seeing it work, right? I mean, it's one thing to read it in the book, but when you can actually see that translating into actual results on the breadboard, I mean, it's quite something. And even on the software side, I think we had a really good experience, even on the software side, developing programs and building projects, and eventually, applying them in real life. So it could be as small as writing a driver for an LCD, but once you see the LCD work because of the code that you have written, right? And if you have done it from the scratch, I think there's a lot of satisfaction you get, right? So that would be my second, memory or something takeaway from college time. And the third one, I would say, at that time, if I remember correctly, that was a time when we started with some of the original festivals that we had in NIT, right? So I think Zeitgeist was one, Utkansh was another. I think these festivals originated around that time. Our batches were quite heavily involved. Myself, I was a day scholar, so I was not as involved as the hostel people, but just seeing those people work on those things, it was quite inspiring. And later on in my life, I realized that those skills of trying to put together something from the scratch, right, managing the project as a whole, even if it is an event management, right, it teaches you a lot about human nature. It teaches you a lot about working with people. It teaches you a lot about finance. It teaches you a lot about managing things, right, on an actual basis. So I think those are all things which are actually very, very applicable once you get to the industry, right? Because you will have to learn it eventually if you have to grow in your career, right? So I think those are the two or three points which I would like to share from my college time, sort of.
Yeah, so one more question, I was getting from a lot of people due to this online scenario, that what kind of projects shall a person work on in semicon industry, like for semicon roles, or like like for hardware profiles, what kind of projects shall a person work on? Because right now we are at home, so what kind of projects would you just give us an advice so that we can start on that?
Again, I think the answer is quite broad because it depends upon what you are really aiming for, right? My advice actually would be get in touch with somebody from the industry, right? So, for example, I'm talking to you, right? I initiated a process, I think about 6 months back, where we were looking for interns, and I think we have done that process in NITJ as well. Take those opportunities, right? And typically what I've seen is even if you're interning with TI for 2 months, eventually after those 2 months, you still leave with some projects, right? So your manager or whoever was supervising you, if you're interested, they'll be very happy to share with you some live projects which you can work for one more year, right? So if you have, industry contacts, if you know somebody, your seniors, talk to them. I'm sure they will be able to, give you something which you can actually work live on and they can actually use on a real time. But it's very broad. I mean, I cannot give you one particular, silver bullet kind of an answer because it will depend upon the areas which you are interested in, right? So, but any of the sectors that I spoke about, if you have taken a note, Just look at what those sectors are, and pick whatever interests you, right? So for example, building automation I spoke about, right? um, um, you can try your hands on creating a home automation system. Just giving an example, right? I mean, if it appeals to you, if you want to tomorrow, for example, go for companies like Honeywell, if you want to go for companies like Carrier, if you want to go for companies like UTC, Siemens, Schneider, these kind of companies, and if you go and talk to them and they see a project on your resume where you have actually designed, developed, deployed an entire automation project on your own, that's valuable, right? And they will ask you a question: which protocols did you use? Why did you pick a particular protocol? How did you manage power on your project? How did you manage connectivity? All those things, right? But if you have done it from the scratch, it shows through, right? So that would be my advice. Whatever project you do, please understand that when you go to the interviews at industry, people will be very easily able to tell whether you have worked on something for real or whether you have put together something because you wanted to put it as a resume bullet point, right? So very quickly that will be established. So it doesn't matter if it's a small project. What's more important is that you should be in the detail. You should know everything. It takes 5 minutes for me to understand whether somebody has copy pasted and sort of somebody else has done the work on the project, but the guy is claiming that he was an integral part of the project team. Be authentic. Whatever you have done, no work is small, right? Whatever you have done, make sure you invest time in it, make sure you understand it, and that is respected and that is valued, right? So those would be my comments on that, sort of.
Yes, sir. So before that, I would also request someone, if someone want to come ahead and interact. So, is there anyone who want to interact with sir? So one question I was getting, like in software industry, mostly BTech and MTech both are allowed, like for the recruitment processes. But in semicon, like for semicon roles, mostly they only prefer MTech students. Like some student from BTech has asked this question. So, like, is there any particular reason or something which industry really wants that BTech students shall also have to actually get into the process?
No, I'm surprised that you picked this trend up. Actually, it was the other way around. I think till about 4 or 5 years back, the industry was primarily picking up bachelor's
Yeah.
students, right? And if I'm candid, what we saw was these days in India specifically, the bachelor's students typically do not want to build a long-term career. They want to have some experience and then they want to go for their masters after a certain point in time, right? So many people go for MBA, many people go for their MS, for instance. So that was one reason why we tilted the balance. So now I think I won't say it's masters only hiring. It's basically a balance between bachelors as well as masters, right? So what we are looking at when we go to colleges for hiring bachelor's students is a sense of commitment, right? So have you really identified what you want to do in life, and are you willing to commit a certain amount of years in doing that, right? If your intention is to gain some experience and then use it for your MS or MBA, I think there are some roles like that as well which do not require long-term commitments. But that is the reason why you are seeing more and more masters getting recruited, because masters have sort of committed to a particular line of expertise, if you may, right? Yeah, so that would be my answer. But it doesn't mean that bachelor's roles have disappeared. I would say it's 50-50 today. And if you can demonstrate that you have your career plan for the next 5 years figured out, I think you won't face a challenge there.
Yeah. So, any other particular question someone wants to ask? Please feel free to connect with sir right now. It's like a lot of efforts which because sir thank you so much, sir, first of all, because you have given us so time and we were really waiting for this day.
No, it's my pleasure, and I would say to the people on the call, even if you do not have a question right away, or if you do not want to ask it in the forum, that's fine. I'll be happy to answer any of the questions. You can send me an email. You can contact me on LinkedIn. So I am available, right? So the reason why I am taking out this time is because I genuinely want to share some of the insights with the folks at NITJ. And my personal, um, can you mute? I think there is some noise in the background, sort of. Yeah. So, I feel that, I would like to contribute back to the place where I've come from. And unfortunately, because of its location and also because of the pre-existing relationships that corporates have had traditionally with some universities, I think NITJ has not been mainstreamed, so to speak, in the larger, electronics or corporate sector, right? So, which would be my endeavor. And in any way, if I can help the students, I'll be available.
Yeah. So a very special thanks to Lydia ma'am also, because she really had a wonderful coordination throughout the process for this event organization. And thank you so much to our HOD, Dr. Dipti ma'am, Simran ma'am, my teammates Prince and Nishant for this for actually organizing this event. And thank you so much, sir, once again, because it was really nice interacting with you. Like, we had really made very nice moments by interacting with you. And I hope that people would be gaining insights from this session, and they will be preparing well for TI for the next placement session as well, so that they can work well, like you have achieved laurels today in this industry. And thank you so much, sir, once again.
Thank you. And I see Mamta ma'am has come online.
Yeah, yes, I just wanted to thank you once again, Ravneet. Thank you so much for being available to the students and for helping them and offering help in future also. Thanks for everything.
My pleasure, ma'am. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Take care. Okay, Saurabh, very good efforts on your part. And I would like to congratulate you for your efforts. But I would like to see this website, all of the people, all of the students connected through this website. Then only this entire activity would solve some purpose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we'll be having our events regarding hardware modeling and on through the seniors who have who have been already placed in companies like NVIDIA and all. So they will also give you their interview experiences, and they will help you how to actually answer the questions in the interviews regarding hardware and analog profiles. Okay, so this will really help you out through the society. So please be active. I know it's online, but still you have to be interactive with like all of us. Then only you will learn. Yeah, that only. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming and supporting us as always.
Okay, my best wishes to all of you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.